welcome to Table 1. Today I'm going to be reviewing the new Skaven rules that have come out as a part of the Scourge of Ghyran lead up to the new season, and giving my impression on what I think is exciting, which combinations I'm going to try on the tabletop, and my overall impressions as a Skaven player for how I think this is going to be useful. I'm going to assume that you guys know what Scourge of Ghyran is, but just really quickly, this is the lead up to the new GHB, the General's Handbook that's coming out, and every faction is going to get a series of new rules, new battle formations, enhancements in some cases, heroic traits, and Skaven is the first of those to come out. So initially, we'll talk about the battle formations. There are two that the Skaven get: Envoys of the Deep and Gnaw and Gathering of the Clans. Envoys of the Deep and Gnaw, not very exciting. This is just gives you a slightly better ward save on your Vermin Lords, but it's not even really a better ward save because instead of negating the damage, you're throwing that damage to Clan Rats, which just isn't that compelling, and is honestly a disadvantage in some cases. Gathering of the Clans is better. This is interesting where you get to do basically 3 redeploys for the price of 1. And it has a lot of potential for shenanigans in the movement phase of skittering forward and back, and the combinations with the Deceiver perhaps for some Eshin units automatically going forward at a minimum. It's pretty fun, and it is very thematic of the Skaven skittering around and running away or attacking at the right moment. So I'm a fan of that one. I think it's good. I don't know if it's as good as the original battle formation options in the book, but I think some people will use it, and it's fun if nothing else. That will have some use. Heroic traits. So this is great. These are all actually pretty good, depending on the build that you're doing, and all viable choices, I think, which will actually see some play, which is a really rare thing that they, usually they got one good one and then, 2 that nobody cares about. But this is great. So the first one, Devious Underlings, basically you pick a hero and then pick another hero to be their leader or their master. And while the master's alive, your guy gives off a 6-up ward bubble around him, which is great. And then if the target dies, you get 2 extra +2 to your charge rolls for all of your infantry. So pretty good. I mean, a 6+ ward bubble for the price of a heroic trait, that's pretty solid. And there's also some interesting things you can think about of suiciding any hero at the right time, turning on the +2 charge, using that to go through a gnaw hole. Probably hard to pull off, but there's definitely some play there, and if nothing else, just having an automatic 6-up ward bubble on giant blocks of infantry, it matters a lot. So that's pretty cool. Flesh Meddler is great. I'm a big fan. The problem that Molder builds have had is a lack of rend, specifically around Rat Ogres. This one's really designed for Rat Ogres, and Ren 2 Rat Ogre squad is suddenly a very different proposition than a Ren 1 squad. And so this heroic trait is really good. And you could do it on Storm Fiends too, you could do it on a Hell Pit, but really it's Rat Ogres. They're going to shine with this, and all of a sudden, all of those 2 damage attacks go from Ren 1 to Ren 2. Which makes a big difference, just in terms of how the curves go. It means they're going to not bounce off 3+ saves to the extent they did before, which is a major problem. So I'm excited to try out some new builds that feature Rat Ogres with this behind it, and I think they'll actually be viable in a way that they weren't before. So I'm excited about that. Pit Tinkerer is really fun. This is for all of you Doomwheel and Doomflayer lovers, and it's pretty great because you get to reroll the random move characteristic. And these things can be really fast if you're rerolling it, right? And specifically for Doomflayers, that's actually a really good war scroll, and they're really solid. But their problem is that they have random movement, so there'll be some times where you need them to rush up and jump on something, and you roll a Snake Eyes for their movement, and they move like 5 inches, and then you're just out of luck, right? So it actually will be very useful to have a reroll for that. And so, yeah, it's probably not as good as the other options or the default ones in the Skaven book, but if you want to play a bunch of Skaven war machines, then that's the trait for you, and it will actually help. Moving on to the War Scrolls. So what they're doing for Scourge of Ghyran is alternative War Scrolls for certain units. So it looks like every faction is going to get 2, and my understanding is that you could choose to use the original version if you want, or you can use this version. You can't mix and match in the same list, but frankly, all of the new stuff I've seen is just better than the old version, so I think everyone's just going to use it. And so on that note, these are some pretty exciting War Scroll changes here. The real star of the show is the Gracer and Screaming Bell. This is a legitimately good unit now. This is really good. This has like so many special rules that are all really good. Doesn't really cost. I think it costs less than the default one, according to what they're saying. It was 310 points, which is crazy to me. And the big thing here is that now, the randomness of the default bell has been replaced with this alternating either +2 move or -1 to hit bubble, which is massive. So, and the other thing is the -1 to hit bubble in this case is your units being near it, so it works on shooting too. I believe the old one was like a bubble of if they were near you, they got -1. This is actually even better. And +2 move is incredible, right? As everyone's seen from the field sergeants running around everywhere right now. It's really good. So that's amazing, and you can plan around it. Turn one, you get some extra speed. Turn two, when most things are engaging, you've got the -1 to hit bubble up, and then alternating. It's really good. And Skaven have the speed and the teleports and everything to control when they engage a lot of the time, and so you'll be able to really use that to a good extent. The spell is also amazing. It turns them into a Nahul. It's like a evil Lady of Vines kind of thing. That's just awesome. There's so many ways to use that. You can bring units back to life. Skitter Leap with this is going to be hilarious. I'm super excited for that. Skitter Leap to their backfield, Nahul people to it, right? Charge off, or just Skitter Leap near an objective. Can't get quite close enough, but then you bring back a unit from the dead and you steal it. There's endless ways to use this. I think it's really strong. Much better than some extra damage that the original version had. And then last but not least, this alone would be a great rule, is just AoE D3 heal end of every turn. It's incredible. That's like a battle trait. It's like a battle trait in one rule on one war scroll. That's amazing. So this thing is really good. It also, by the way, gave +1 damage charge on the crushing bulk, which is hilarious. So it can actually do 3 damage each, just randomly. So Gracer and Screaming Bell, you're going to see a lot of these. I'm finally going to go paint my Screaming Bell, which has been sitting for a long time unfinished, and I think it's really good. It's going to unlock a whole bunch of different builds too. It's very strong. Brood Terror. This one isn't as exciting, but it is an improvement on the default version, I think. The main version basically is the same, except it doesn't have a ward save, and it has a 2-up to give a -1 hit bubble. But as we just saw, you've now got pretty easy access to that with the Grace here, so you don't really need the original version. And this one comes with a ward save, which is a huge deal. It just makes it so much less likely that it gets killed before it can do anything. It really, really helps. It still has the same weapons, which frankly are great. The weapon profiles were never the problem with the Brood Terror. Like, the shooting actually can pop off and do some real work. And in crit mortals and melee, it's not bad. It has this interesting rule where you can basically like rip off its arms and give it to Molder units, and then they get +1, +1 to hit, which is really funny. So it's kind of like free command points, or handing out multiple all-out attacks. Which actually could be pretty useful if you got a couple units of Rat Ogres, because then you can do all that attack and this, so even if someone's -1 to hit, you can still get to 3s, which is a big deal. So it's pretty solid, but I think the main reason you take this guy is he's just a pretty good buy for 240 points with a 5-up ward save, good damage. He heals like crazy. It's just really good. So anyway, I'm very excited about these. I think both of them are going to see play. I think the combination of these new war scrolls and the heroic traits, specifically Flesh Meddler, is going to unlock builds that didn't really work before, which is always what I'm looking for with new rules. And the other thing I'll say too is that I think GW has done a really good job of making competitive rules that also are thematic. Which is really the holy grail, right? That's the joy of Warhammer, is fun, thematic, lore-driven rules that are also actually good on the tabletop and aren't just a gimmick. So you take like Devious Underling. This is Skavenhood embodied in one trait. Plotting against your superiors, trying to undermine them. When the moment is right, you take them out, and then you take charge. That's really great, and it actually is good on the tabletop the way they've structured it. And so 10 out of 10, right? I think that hits all the marks that you want to hit. So anyway, so I think that wraps up the review of the Skaven rules. Again, I'll be doing this for the other factions as well. So stay tuned for another Table 1 video soon.